What do we see when we look at a photograph? The image we view shows us something about the person, but the story we create is our own. The photographs here have no stories. They are our earliest photographs. The subjects anonymous, the stories hidden. What do we see when we look at these images? These images represent the other, the people we see daily whose stories we may or may not know, whose stories we think we know. What do we see and feel when we encounter the other? What stories do we tell ourselves about the other? What do these stories reveal about ourselves?
Everything about this one is so crazy. It's like it's like Alice in Wonderland meets like, you know, little Sammy. I mean, it looks like it just the difference in expression and what that says. Like she's so bored. She's probably had her photograph taken a million times. She's from a different class and race, and he's like totally psyched. It's probably the first time he's ever had his picture taken. He's, you know, into the whole game. So I like that. I like that dichotomy. And you know, I wonder who took this too with the title, "The Study in Black and White." I mean, the white girl and the little black boy, and black and white photography. It just, I think it says a lot about race and class.
If I'm thinking of what little I know, because I'd be like, well, this is a white boy and this is a black little girl. Does that mean that possibly she's the daughter of the nana of this boy? I mean, there's all these different things that you're thinking about. Why is it there's a little black girl and a little white boy in one image together? Why not? I mean, there is no information, which means that your mind can only take from what it is you know and put it into that information and into that image. What does the image make me feel? I don't like it because I know that the little girl somehow is not being treated the same way that the little boy is, without any information. Maybe she is, but you know what? The majority of little black girls in an image with a little white boy, probably not. There's something not particularly right, is how it makes me feel. And not because of the white boy, but because of the little black girl. I was brought up and we had someone that worked at our house, and she had a daughter, and she grew up with us. But there was always a time where she couldn't always be with us, and that made me feel bad. She was a friend of mine, yet, and she still is a very good friend of mine. There was always that bit of a separation, though, unfortunately, not because of me, but because of my grandmother.
I think that here's where Africans and Native American mix. Could be Seminole, Cherokee, Caribbean. They seem to be, I guess I could say that would be a couple.
Well, they seem buddies. I mean, they seem close. I mean, it does make you wonder if it's a couple. Mm-hmm. It's a sexual couple too. And there's or maybe brothers, but there's a closeness there. I mean, this is like as opposed to those two guys that were maybe in business with each other. This is another kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Whether it's sexual or familial.
Well, or that could be a woman on the left dressed as a man.
Passing. Yeah. Pants are pretty baggy. You know, this whole issue with whiteness and other is what that runs through me to this. Is like how we define whiteness. You know, and at a certain point when the Irish first started coming over, they weren't considered white. And the Italians and all that stuff, and eventually, I just heard the other day, WAP stands for without papers.
Yeah.
Which is it's a pretty interesting comment on today, you know.
Without papers,
yeah. Yeah, that's where this word WAP comes from.
I guess what made me think she was a woman is they seem to have their arms locked, or
Yeah, they're
they're
close to each other.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have much information. Let's see. Is there
Info
something here?
page.
Yeah, let's go to the info and let's see if there's anything here.
Maker unknown on 2 Hindu men. So they're from India. See, what do I know?
Well, now you look. Now with that information, that person on the left, kind of looking, it is an expression or a softness of somebody that would be a Hindu.
You know, and our assumption is
Bali, Indonesia.
right. Their assumption is they're Americans, so there's only at that
Yeah.
point in American culture there's only 3 or 4 places that we're thinking they're coming from.
Mhm.
And so those guys were really on the outs. Except there's sometimes you're so strange. I had this great story about a friend of mine who was an engineer, was working in Boston, and he had the guy working at his. This was in the late '70s, early '80s, when there's a lot of remember the South Boston and all that. You know, there's a lot of racial stuff, and the guy in their engineering firm was from Africa, and he ended up through some series of events getting stuck in South Boston, and he got cornered in some parking lot by a bunch of white guys from South Boston, and they were about to beat the crap out of him. He said, I'm from Africa, and they said, oh shit, we thought you were a nigger, you gotta get out of here. So that's not even, I mean, it's like you don't even know, you can't even begin to figure out how to unravel all of that, because he wasn't threatening to them, because at that point there was the whole busing thing, and it was like he wasn't going to be bussed into their neighborhood, so they weren't threatening him. And it's just like these guys, the Hindi guys, might have been less discriminated against because they were so exotic.
I was curious about this picture because in the 19th century, when babies died young, which of course a lot of them did, they very often took pictures of the baby with the parent, or just by itself, but not with the, not generally, or not what I've seen with a nanny. But I think the baby may be alive. It's so hard to read this picture because the baby's face moves, so it could be alive. But the hair around the top makes me wonder if it's a memorial picture. At first I was thinking that the hair belonged to the nanny, but then I was thinking that maybe the hair belonged to the baby, although the baby's hair seems to be straighter than that. But it's very hard to know, isn't it? You can't say for sure. It's also a curious piece in that regard too, because I think it would be very unusual for white parents to take the nanny at this time to photograph with the baby, dead or alive, and give a copy or give the original, because it's a daguerreotype, to the nanny. So it really speaks to a very intimate relationship. Or that the nanny went and spent the money to have this picture taken with this baby. Hard to know. So it's very interesting because it raises a lot of questions about that relationship and about economics.
This one, yeah, like that's a beautiful portrait. I mean, from the who knows what's going on, because you never know from looking at a picture, but it looks like that woman loves that little baby. And so this one doesn't make me uncomfortable, because I get the sense that there's real feeling in that. Because when I look at these pictures, I feel like they are being brought up by these people, that they're not seeing their parents. And that also makes me uncomfortable, because I think, God, where are the parents? But when I see this one reminds me a little bit of Juana, because I know she does, to some degree, she does love Lucia, and Lucy cares for her too. So Yeah, this, I mean, I didn't see any similarity until this image.
Hmm.